Odyssey. Call 387-2323.
LA 21-12670. Offices in Baton Rouge.
WNXX, Jackson, KNXX, Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers. LA 21-12681. Offices in Baton Rouge.
Hanny time. Hanny time. A daily look at sports from our resident historian. Your sports break during your lunch break. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. Here's Charles Hannegriff.
And good afternoon to you. Welcome to Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Charles Hannegriff, Mario Jerez, Taylor Sharp with you. Coming up here in about 15 minutes, Scott Rabalais will be with us. We'll do first class, second class, and no class. And we'll take a look at the college football playoff poll came out yesterday. So the who's mad? TCU is mad. Did we not get our TCU anger out of the way early? I mean, give you an idea of what happens in this in these rankings. It's the same thing as the NCAA tournament selection committee for for basketball or baseball, and the same thing happens every year. The same thing happens with the polling. The same thing happens on Selection Sunday and Selection Monday. It can be who got in and who didn't get in, who's ranked where. Whatever it is, when you put a human element into this thing, you're going to have natural biases. And there's one reason, and one reason only, that TCU is ranked where they are right now. And I'm not going to spend a massive amount of time on this. I want to get on to LSU and Alabama. But there's one reason that TCU is ranked behind the teams that they're ranked behind. And that is people that are voting on this think that TCU will lose. It's not based on what they've done, because if it was based on what they had done, then TCU would be ranked higher. They've got 3 wins by 7 points or fewer, but Alabama's got 2 and they've lost a game. They talk about dominance, but Michigan beat Maryland by 7. TCU's got 4 wins over teams that were ranked. That's the same as Michigan, Georgia, and Alabama combined. And they've got 4 road wins. That's double Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, or Alabama. But the people on the committee think that TCU is going to lose. So they rank them behind the teams that they think that are going to finish better. This is a prediction. TCU's got to play Texas Tech, Texas, Baylor, and Iowa State. None of those games are unwinnable. None of those games are a gimme. And they all think that they're going to lose one of those games. Actually, so do I. By the way, so does Vegas. All right, the chances of them running the table on that aren't good. So we fall in the same trap every time. Get the prediction business. Why is TCU picked behind these teams? Because people think they're going to lose. You can't look at their resume and say they should be ranked 7th. They do this every year in March when they select the basketball bracket. They do it every year in baseball when they select the baseball bracket. They're particularly notorious for doing this stuff when somebody gets hurt. Well, somebody got hurt, so they're not going to be as good. How do you know? What if the quarterback that gets hurt, what if the next guy's Tom Brady? Patriots didn't think that, losing Drew Bledsoe was a good thing, and they fell ass backwards in the 6 Super Bowls, okay? But the committee does it every year. They do it in the polling. It's what they think is going to happen. And just like me and everybody else, they're wrong as often as they're right when it gets into the prediction business. Kenyon Martin got hurt, so Cincinnati's not as good as they were. How do you know? Why are you ranking them based on what you think is going to happen and based on what has happened? But this is no surprise. This happens all the time. By the way, you want a full breakdown on this? The Handycast is posted right now. I give you what Vegas would give you if Vegas were ranking these teams, because a lot of times we say, why don't we just let Vegas rank them? Vegas is also in the prediction business. They're just a lot better at it than everybody else. So I give you the Vegas poll, and I give you what every team in the every team in the poll would be against every other team in the poll if Vegas were putting out a point spread. By the way, just a little spoiler alert, the team that's number one in the CFP would not be favored against everybody. In fact, they would be an underdog against more than one team. Well, we get into the prediction business. That's what polls are. This is so that they can look good in a month. We told you TCU was going to lose. You weren't supposed to rank TCU based on what you thought they were going to do. You were supposed to rank TCU based on what they had done, and you didn't do that. But that's of absolute no surprise to anybody. So the Hannycast today is all about where Vegas would rank all of these teams and what they would be in the point spread against all these other teams. And by the way, I did it for LSU as well. Obviously, LSU would be a underdog against the top 7 teams in the poll, but it's a wide discrepancy, not a wide discrepancy, but a wide range of just how big of an underdog they would be. So that's on the podcast right now, Apple, Spotify, 1045ESPN.com. Brian Kelly and Nick Saban both talking about the upcoming game between LSU and Alabama, and that's really where I'd rather spend some time right now. Kelly was asked about where the team has made the most improvements from Game 1 to Game 8.
We would take 20 minutes, 30 minutes. There's so many areas. I just think, understanding, this was a big change for them, and adapting to the new standards on a day-to-day basis, building different habits, and just thinking right about everything they do relative to their preparation. I think that's probably the 2 biggest things, and has allowed them to take their preparation to a new level, which has allowed them to perform better.
This has been the mantra from the very beginning. This is how we do things. This is how we do things every day. You have to start doing these things from the minute you get up in the morning until the time you put your head on the pillow at night. This is how we do things. And it takes a while to get that stuff done. And that's where they are. We did our analogy after the Florida State game. It's like buying a fixer-upper, okay? What do we have here? We got bad landscaping. We got a hole in the roof. We got flooring that needs to be replaced. We got a leak in the faucet, and the whole thing needs to be painted. Well, 2 months later, okay, we fixed the hole in the roof. The landscaping looks better. We fixed the floor. Just get the leaky faucet fixed, and you'd be all right. This has been just part of, you'll use the expression, the process, but thought I'd let you hear that. The other part is they asked him about, hey, here's a whole key of the game. Coach Kelly, how are you going to defend Bryce Young?
There's no real good answer. If I had one, I certainly would be voicing it. That he is, in many instances, you can't defend him because he's so elusive and he wants to throw the football. I mean, he could take off so many times, but he's trying to find receivers down the field and just has a great awareness, a sense. He's a true quarterback. He's not a scramble around guy that just throwing it up there. He's very intentional about everything that he does. He's not taking sacks. He's the Heisman Trophy winner, and he should be. He's the best player in college football.
He was the Heisman Trophy winner last year, and he's certainly right there with the best players in college football. No argument there. Hooker would win the Heisman if they voted today, but Kelly's point is completely valid here. What I found with quarterbacks that have the kind of pocket awareness that Bryce Young does, and Kelly's absolutely right in that he doesn't scramble looking to run. He scrambles looking to throw the football. Pressure up the middle becomes so important because as often as he'll break to the outside, Young can climb the pocket. If you can create pressure in that defensive middle, it makes his life a lot harder. And it also cuts down some of the lanes that he can take off, especially if you're in man coverage, and he'll do just enough of that to keep you honest. The pressure up the middle makes that so much more difficult to attain. If he tries to step up and he runs into the rear end of one of his guards that's getting pushed back, then all of a sudden things start to collapse on him. It's when the pressure in the defensive middle either doesn't come up the field at all, they don't get a good push, or they get separated and they widen that middle of the field, the quarterbacks like Bryce Young become just absolutely impossible to defend. So you're going to hear all week about getting pressure on Bryce Young, but sustained pressure and getting him contained. I'm here to tell you a lot of that is about the pressure you're going to get in the defensive middle. All right, they asked, I don't know who asked this question, but I'm glad they did. Didn't expect an answer, but it sort of got on. I said yesterday, or maybe it was Monday, that I really would have liked to have been on that call with Brian Kelly and Nick Saban when Kelly called him about the LSU job. I would not have wanted them to know that I was listening. I would have wanted to hear what he told him. So somebody actually asked Saban what he told Kelly.
Not to divulge anything that I talked to anybody else about, but
Damn it.
LSU is, the people who have great passion there. It's a really good, football job in every way. You got a lot of good players in the state, and you got great support and great passion. So, and he's done a really good job of, creating sort of the intangibles that you need to have a really good team. So I've always thought LSU is a special place because of the passion and the people and the commitment they have to standard of excellence.
The intangibles. That's what I'd like to have heard from him. Anybody can, it's a pretty stock answer, but I appreciate the fact that he didn't rip the guy's head off. Where you say, well, recruit well, keep everybody in the state, or just keep most of the players in the state and win, and you'll be fine. So a lot goes into that. How do you not run afoul of administration, media, fans, boosters, high school coaches? You gotta really cultivate a lot of relationships when you're a college football coach at a place like LSU, really anywhere in the Southeastern Conference, but especially at LSU. And every one of those relationships is a little bit different. You got to wear a lot of hats. That's the parts I would have liked to have heard. But I appreciate him answering the question anyway. Saban talking about the improvements. We're going to skip ahead one, Mario. The improvements he's seen from LSU's offense.
Look, I think Jaden Daniels has played well all year. I think their whole offense, being a new system, whether it's the receivers, the offensive line, the running backs, they've all gotten more confident in their ability to execute and understand what is expected of them to be able to execute successfully. And I think he sort of has benefited from the same things, much more comfortable with the system. And, that's enhanced his ability to improve and play better. Not that I thought that he ever played poorly. I just think that, their whole offensive team has sort of developed through the course of the season with a better understanding of the whole offensive system and scheme.
Yeah, it's not that Daniels ever was playing particularly awful. He wasn't turning the ball over a whole bunch, but he wasn't doing what they needed him to do to move the offense forward either. So Saban is right here, again, as usual, in that the offense has evolved, but Daniels – people didn't want to hear this when the Tennessee game was over. And Brian Kelly came out and said, Jaden Daniels played pretty well. What? He actually didn't play all that badly. I said that in the postgame show, got my hair ripped off. Look, there were plenty of other reasons that they lost the Tennessee game. There were plenty of other reasons they lost the Florida State game. It had nothing to do with Jaden Daniels. Was he perfect? No. Was he not doing the things that they wanted him to do in September that would move the offense forward as they eventually got to in October? No. Did they consider making a change at one point if he didn't start doing those things, which is throwing the ball down the field? Maybe. I don't know how serious they got about it. Probably not as serious as the fans. Did you ever just go out there and say, man, that guy stunk today? No, not one time. Finally, Saban talked about one of the changes he's made in his secondary. You may remember this name because he was in Baton Rouge. Eli Rick spent the first half of the season with his ass glued to the bench. That changed against Mississippi State.
Right. Well, Eli just had to go through a lot of transitions here in terms of what he had learned before and trying to learn our system and getting confident in it. And so we always thought he could be a really good player. I thought he played well in the last game, and hopefully he'll be able to build on that and stay focused on the things that he needs to do to execute well with his position.
Captain attitude. Tell me Ricks didn't go there and say, I'm a first-round pick. I'm going to go play for Alabama and be a first-round pick. They can't put me on the bench. Want to bet? They did it for half the season. You ever hear Bobby Knight's analogy about putting a player on the bench and what it does to their mind? It's kind of funny, a little bit dated, but still has its effectiveness. Though, if you can't control the NIL stuff, you can't control the transfer portal. You can still the one thing coaches still have control over, playing time. Now, may cause guys to get into the transfer portal, may cause some NIL problems if a guy paid a whole bunch of money and the booster wants to know why the guy he paid a whole bunch of money for is on the bench. But playing time still gets people's attention. Only took Rick's about a month and a half. We'll take a break. Scott Rabalais when we come back here. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Telling you about Supreme Rice and SupremeRice.com. You're getting that tailgate ready for the weekend. Going to be a monster weekend on the LSU campus. Don't forget to bring the tents. Might have to dodge a little bit of weather, but tell you what, Supreme Rice is always going to make for a wonderful tailgate. Jambalayas, your red beans, your crawfish etouffees, your stews. You want to get a little gumbo fired up this weekend? Make it with Supreme Rice and support our Louisiana farmers down in Crowley, Louisiana since the 1930s. All of our Supreme Rice grown, milled, and processed down in Southwest Louisiana, so you'll be supporting our Louisiana farmers while saving some money, stretching your food dollar, and getting a delicious product. Easy to get, all your AG food stores. Hey, stop by Rouse's on your way into campus. We'll be there doing pregame. Get your Supreme Rice on your way to LSU and Alabama. For more information and unique recipes, go to SupremeRice.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the JimsFirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the JimsFirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, Hanny Time, Hunt and Hill. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Enter now for a chance to win a catch and cook fishing experience from the Louisiana Charter Boat Association with me, Chef Jay Ducote, winner of Beat Bobby Flay. Register now at gocatch.com. That's GEAUX catch.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, Hanny Time, Hunt and Hill. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Service Master Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact Service Master Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. Service Master Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
On Thursdays, Off the Bench, we have a new edition of Munchies with Chef Michael Johnson. Plus, we continue to look ahead to LSU versus Alabama, and we recap Pelicans-Lakers. Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bringing Scott Rabalais from The Advocate covering LSU football. Rab, good afternoon. How are you?
Guys, I'm doing well. Sorry about the phone trouble there.
Don't worry about it. There was a question that was asked. Kelly talked about it earlier in the week. It was asked on a teleconference today. Saban answered it. It was about what the conversation was about when Kelly called him when he was considering taking the job. Saban gave a pretty generic answer. I mean, as much as I would have expected. And I don't expect him to divulge, confidential stuff.
Right.
But you covered both guys. You've been here a while. What do you think Nick Saban told Brian Kelly about this job?
I'm reminded a couple of times in the last week about Nick Saban and his relation to LSU. Paul Feinbaum said last week on a show that he thought Nick was still carried the torch for LSU, and that if he stayed, he would have won 9 or 10 national titles, which the mind boggles. And I know, talking to him when he first got to Alabama, he realized that he'd made a mistake. He thought going to Miami, and at that point it was too late. So I think he probably genuinely told him it's a place you can win and be successful at, and I think he knows that, and I think he means that. Yes, Alabama has won the vast majority of the games between the two schools since he's been at Bama, but I don't think it changes the fact that it's still the place that he thought he could win and come to sight unseen back in 1999, and where he really became the coach that he is now. And I think he has a genuine fondness for LSU. That doesn't mean you don't try to win and beat them every time. No, obviously that's what you do. That's his job, and people shouldn't resent him for that. But I think he probably told him that. I think he probably gave a glowing report about LSU. If I had to guess, I really would.
Yeah, I think that if he let's say the roles were reversed, and he had done 5 years at Alabama, won one national championship, going to the Dolphins, and showed up at LSU 2 years later in 2007, then I think that it could have been reversed. He could have won one at Alabama. He could have won multiple titles here at LSU. I don't know if he wins 6 or 4, whatever. The point I would, take with him, though, is he was never going to stay in any college job without giving the NFL a try. He was waiting for the right spot. And if he had been at Alabama, it would have been the same thing. If he had been at Michigan State, it would have been the same thing. LSU, it was the same thing. He had to scratch that itch. He had to see. He turned down multiple jobs before he finally took one. He got the right ownership. He got everything right but the quarterback. And if he had gotten the quarterback right, he might have stayed in the NFL. He certainly would have stayed longer than 2 years. Would he have stayed 10 years? I don't know. But it definitely would have changed things. It definitely would have changed things for him. But to say that he would have stayed at LSU from 2005 all the way through 2022, I don't think so. I think at some point, might not have been the Dolphins' job, might have been another job. He would have had to say, listen, I'm going to go give the NFL a try. So that's the only part. After he did it, did he wish he wouldn't have? Maybe. But if he would have never done it, that would have eaten at him. It would have come up every year. He would eventually had to do that.
I definitely think so. I mean, and it wasn't. I think people resent Saban for leaving, and I don't know how you feel, Charlie. I think some people kind of feel like he left LSU for Alabama, which is not the case. It was just Alabama. The job was open when he came back to college football. I think he realized he had a good thing here and left a good thing, but he would have left anywhere. he thought about coaching at Notre Dame. That was a job that I think had appealed to him being Catholic and growing up in the era when he did, when Notre Dame was so good. I think he definitely would have left there too to go to the NFL. It was just something he was going to have to do, and it didn't matter where it was. And people shouldn't resent that. They should appreciate it. Maybe it's a strong word, but be happy that the things he did for LSU football that led them on the path of 20 years that have never been in LSU history that now Brian Kelly is trying to get back to.
All right, give me your best scenario for LSU to win this game.
Best scenario for LSU to win.
Yeah, what's the formula? What has to happen for them to win?
It's probably nothing new. I think you can't have any special teams major malfunctions. I think it's important to get off to a better start.
Definitely.
Tennessee, but you don't want to do that every game.
All right, his phone's killing me. Get off to a better start. There's no question that Alabama usually gets off. One of the locks in Vegas for years have been, look, when in doubt, bet the Alabama first half. And Alabama usually, not always, but usually gets off to good starts. LSU has not gotten off to good starts in most of their games. And a 17-point lead against Auburn, a 17-point deficit against Auburn is not going to kill you. A 17-point deficit against Alabama probably would, although even that's not a guaranteed thing now because they came back on Arkansas came back on them. Arkansas was down, going 28 points and cut the lead to 5. So, again, this is not, the Alabama team that has always played with their foot on the gas the whole way, the way some of the other Alabama teams have. But, Rab, you were saying?
No special teams implosions, obviously. You don't have to have a big lead on Alabama, but don't fall way behind. You're just playing with fire against Bryce Young. And Jaden Daniels doesn't have to outplay Bryce Young, but he's got to be in the ballpark. He's got to give him a good, solid game, something close to what he's given them the last couple of games, and which helps LSU strike a balance on offense, which makes this offense very, very potent, as we've seen the last 2 weeks. So I think it's a very plausible path for LSU to win this game. I'm struggling with whether to pick them to win or not for the paper because, it's Alabama and LSU's been in this situation many times before and usually doesn't win. But it's not a position I thought they'd be in, and it's a little hard to wrap your head around. But wow, I mean, top 10 matchup and playing for the West title. I never really thought this would be, but here they are. Can they make that leap? And just go in loose. I mean, Charlie. I mean, I think Alabama's the team with all the pressure. No one's expecting LSU to win the game, or certainly didn't expect them to be in this position. So, I hope they can play fast and loose and not and let the pressure get to Alabama, which has not always played great on the road this year.
There's been some thought that the changes in college football are just now starting to really irritate Saban to the point where it's slipping a little bit. Maybe it's NIL, maybe it's a transfer portal, maybe it's something else, but that he's just got a little bit less of a grip on this year's team than teams in the past. You buy it?
Yes, I do. And just a function of age. I mean, he's 71. I mean, we're all like, I'm 15 years younger, and I think, the world is not what it was. Back in my day, that kind of thing. I know he's saying some of that to himself. If I'm saying it at 56, and I've talked to other coaches who are like, man, I just can't deal with this NIL stuff. I want to get out, and the current model, and it takes a lot more than people think for a Brian Kelly or a Kim Mulkey to at a high level. So, yeah, I think the new contract he signed at Alabama is a lot of window dressing. I don't think there's any way he coaches that long. But I also don't know what he would do otherwise.
if he had something else, if he had something else to do, that would, if there was something else that he aspired to do, be the president of the university or the athletic director, or run for Congress like Tuberville did, or to do some kind of media. But unfortunately, he doesn't seem to want to do any of that. He's fallen, but it's so small. Okay. It's like, when Michael Jordan didn't have his best game, he still scored, 26. So it's a tough deal. Hey, Rab, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Charles. Take care.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. First class, second class, no class is next. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Continue to buy my vehicles from Acura and Infinity of Baton Rouge. The Acura Infinity pre-owned package is fantastic. And let me tell you why. First of all, you're going to have a comprehensive 167-point inspection, so you know that your vehicle is up to the highest standards in the industry. 6 years, unlimited mileage warranty, a complimentary first-year basic maintenance package, free 3-month satellite radio subscription, emergency roadside assistance. I had to use this last week. Had a problem with my vehicle. Listen, being able to make that quick phone call and have some assistance is invaluable, particularly if you've got older drivers or younger drivers that need that assistance. Complimentary service courtesy vehicle is absolutely fantastic. You don't have to wait for your vehicle. You don't have to arrange for transportation while your vehicle is being serviced. Transparency in pricing and a family atmosphere is why I'll continue to go back time and again to Acura and Infinity of Baton Rouge.
Times of need. Get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Ochsner.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Saban office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Saban have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli?
I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
do more of what you're born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born to grill.
You want cheese on your burger, Pops?
I'll take a little cheese.
I'm Jay Ducote. I grew up learning how to cook at LSU tailgate parties and right in my own backyard. And I created JD's Louisiana Products to bring that Louisiana flavor to you at home for your backyard cookout. JD's Louisiana barbecue sauce, Louisiana molasses mustard, spicy and sweet barbecue rub, and more are available at your local supermarkets or by logging on to jducote.com/shop. Put in promo code CST for 25% off at checkout.
There's nothing better than tailgating, but it can be a lot of work. So why do it yourself when you don't have to? Let Revelry Sports and Entertainment set up your luxury tailgate on campus. Order what you want and just show up.
In the prep football season, and we get started Friday night at 6 with Louisiana Prep Preview, presented by the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic. And we'll wrap things up with the Week 10 edition of the Lake Urgent Care Total Occupational Medicine Louisiana Prep Scoreboard Show from 10 to midnight on YouTube, Your View, and 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Hanny Time. First class.
I want a seat in first class where I was booked and ticketed over a month ago.
Second class.
That no man should be subjected to the indignity of being labeled or treated like a second-class citizen.
And no class.
My life had become like school on Sunday. No class.
I'll tell you what then. Why don't you call me sometime when you have no class?
First class, second class, no class, Alabama Week edition. So Incarnate Word is playing Houston Christian this weekend. They're probably going to win. Incarnate Word is 8-1, and Houston Christian is 2-6. Why am I telling you this? Because Incarnate Word's quarterback is Lindsey Scott. You remember Lindsey Scott, don't you? Lindsey Scott, high school player of the year here at Zachary in 2015, signed with LSU, redshirted a year, ended up after 1 year at LSU transferring to East Mississippi Community College, better known as Last Chance U. Won the national championship, national JUCO championship at East Mississippi Community College. Then he ended up at Missouri, 2018, got a DNP coach's decision. Moved on to Nichols in 2019, had to sit out a year as a double transfer. And then when he was eligible, that COVID thing hit in 2020. So he missed the whole 2019 season, the whole 2020 season. And in 2021, he got to play 2 seasons at Nichols because they did the spring season and the fall season. So he started 16 games in the calendar year, essentially 2 seasons combined. And then the NCAA granted Lindsey Scott another year of eligibility. This is 7 for those of you scoring at home because of, well, everything that I just told you. So how's Lindsey Scott doing over at Incarnate Word? Well, he's thrown for 3,090 yards so far this season. That's second in the FCS to Tim Draymont, however you say it, from Fordham. And he's tied with him for the most touchdowns at 38. He's also run for 270 yards and 6 touchdowns on the season. By the way, Lindsey Scott is carrying a 4.0 grade point average in grade school at Incarnate Word. I think he's got multiple degrees now, like an undergraduate, and he's in graduate school with 1 degree and maybe working. I forget exactly how many he's got. Doesn't come as a surprise to me, though, because do you remember where Lindsey Scott almost went? Or I say almost went. He had an offer. He had an offer to Tulane, and he had an offer to, as it turned out, LSU at the end. But he had an offer to one other school. You remember where it was?
Yeah, it was Harvard.
Harvard. Good academic school, as I understand it. So you got a guy who's good enough to play college football at multiple levels, good enough to be accepted to 2 Southeastern Conference schools, good enough to win a junior college national championship, good enough to come back into the FCS and be at the top of all statistical categories for an 8-1 team, and he's got a 4.0 grade point average. I don't know how much professional football Lindsey Scott's going to play. There's talk that he's maybe going to play in Canada next year. He obviously still loves the game, but hey, look, when you can do all that, he's got quite a story to tell. Lindsey Scott, first class. Mario, who's playing basketball tonight?
The Pelicans and the Lakers.
3 times. Thank you. 3 times this year, the Lakers and the Pelicans will play. This is utopia, okay? Ordinarily, if you're hoping for a better draft pick, you have to hope that your team loses. Sometimes, if your team loses, somebody else gets the draft pick, as is the case with the New Orleans Saints. But in this case, the Pelicans 3 times this year, and tonight is one of those times, they will have the luxury of knowing that winning a game will improve their draft stock. Maybe it's just a little bit. Maybe it's like 1% or 0.5% or whatever it ends up being. But 3 times this year, the Pelicans can go out there knowing that if they win, not only will they go up the standings, but they will go up the draft lottery board as well. Tonight is one of those times as they are in whatever they call Staples Center now to play the Lakers. The Pelicans are a 3.5-point favorite. We know anything about Herb playing?
Questionable. Him and Dyson Daniels.
Game time to. I'm more worried about Herb. Daniels is going to be a nice player, but he's not really in the rotation unless they've got injuries right now. Herb's the guy that I would be worried about. Oh, did Anthony Davis make the injured list?
He did.
Shocking.
Everybody drink. He is questionable with lower back tightness.
have to be in a drunken stupor if you had to drink every time Davis was on the list. So good with a chance to be great. Got a game tonight. You win. You move up the standings, and you knock the Lakers down even more. My no class this week. It's Alabama week, right? I enjoy a good Alabama conspiracy theory as much as the next guy. Look, Patrick Peterson was in bounds. The Vidal-Alexander call was BS, and I could go on. Manipulation of the schedule, manipulation of the league office. Players that are doing things that would get suspended at other schools, whether it be a defensive lineman punching an offensive lineman on the ground. We've seen that happen before. Or a player punching women on the way off the field. Tell me this, if it was anybody else, the league office would have stepped in. The league office stepped in to fine Tennessee for not controlling a mob that was coming down on the field to evacuate the goalposts into the Tennessee River. They got that fine real quick. LSU had an orderly mob. There's such a thing. Down onto the field. Fine them. The league's been pretty mum on Burton. Been pretty mum on we're going to call it assault? You hit somebody? Nope. Handle it internally. So I like a good Alabama conspiracy theory, but I'll tell you what. The LSU fans on Twitter last night, and unfortunately I, watched some of this stuff, really took it to the next level. If you think that LSU was put in the top 10 of these CFP rankings to boost Alabama's case, come on, man. I'll put the tinfoil hat on. I'll march to Tuscaloosa to Dreamland Ribs and set up camp. But you really, really got to be paranoid to think that LSU got into the top 10 just so it could help Alabama. If LSU loses to Alabama, you do know they're going to drop down the rankings, right? This is the same yo-yos that last night said, well, they're going to put Tennessee 1 so that they can put 1 versus 2 on 1 versus 3 on the marquee for Tennessee and Georgia. They're going to use the AP rankings instead of the CFP rankings, the CFP rankings instead of the AP rankings. Let me ask you something. You guys watch a lot of college football, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever watched a game because of what a team was ranked? One time.
I have not.
No, not because of the ranking specifically.
Never. LSU and Alabama is not going to gain one more ratings point because LSU is 10 rather than 11. Alabama is not going to gain any more points in the CFP because LSU is 10th this week instead of 11th or 12th or 8th or 9th. Come on, man. At some point, you got to say it's not really true, okay? Alabama gets as many breaks as anybody in the world. I've made more fun of that than anybody probably with a microphone, but this is a reach. LSU didn't get ranked because they're playing Alabama this week. And Tennessee didn't get ranked number 1 because they're playing Georgia this week. They got ranked for the reasons that are on their resume, the teams that they've beaten. Was LSU a little higher than I thought they would be? They were. The win over Ole Miss is standing up pretty good right now. Ole Miss is 8-1. When you're 8-1 and the one it was a 25-point win. Well, that stands up pretty good. Also, playing in LSU's favor, which it shouldn't, but it does, is that they are on a roll right now. You know, they have won the last couple of games pretty convincingly. I think the games in September should count as much as the games in October, and the ones in October should count as much as the games in November, but I realize it's not so. Drives me crazy every time they do that, going into the postseason. Well, this team's hot. So September didn't count? No, the Florida State loss still counts, so they're a little bit higher, but it's not because of Alabama. Look, you want to come up with a valid Alabama conspiracy theory? I'm in your corner. I'm here to help. Okay, I'll do whatever I can for you. But last night's was really a reach. Take a break, come back, get some of your questions out of the chat. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Big Mike's with another great lineup this weekend. Honky Tonk on Friday night, and DJ Clarence on Saturday for the LSU game. Final week of the high school football regular season, so if you want to head in for a late meal after high school football, Big Mike's is family-friendly and welcoming after the high school football games. Happy hour drink prices on Sunday. No Saints this Sunday, but happy hour drink prices for the NFL on Sunday. And then, of course, we'll be telling you about Saints and the Ravens for Monday Night Football. Big Mike's, part of the fabric of Denham Springs on Aspen. Big Mike's, kind of a big deal.
Professional golfers John Peterson and J.J. Colleen answer all your golf and life questions inside the new Drop Biscuit Studios podcast for the people. Download or subscribe today at dropbiscuit.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I am Juliette, daughter of Marguerite, granddaughter of Gabriel Piera. I come from a line of strong women. Women who knew struggle and success too. Still, I was scared by my breast cancer diagnosis. But I had Blue Cross coverage, which meant I got care from top doctors. I'm strong like my mother, and her mother before her. The right card, the right care.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
This summer, meet Acura's heroes of performance. Only available at the Acura Summer of Performance.
This summer, visit your local Acura dealer for attractive offers on the MDX.
Want more customers? Running Boards Marketing can help you get their attention. Imagine your brand's message on a giant LED billboard truck that can't be skipped and is nearly impossible to ignore. Running Boards Marketing is the leader in effective and affordable advertising on digital mobile billboards, which are 2 times more effective than traditional billboards. With a 97% recall rate, you'll leave a lasting impression with your customers. Visit us online at Running Boards Marketing.
NFL is back. Our coverage starts Sunday at 10 a.m. with Magnolia Bluffs Football Sunday with Jimmy Ott, immediately followed by the Atlanta Falcons and the Los Angeles Chargers at noon.
right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Congratulations to Stephen Hill of Greenwell Springs. Stephen is our Week 9 winner in the 2022 Twin Peaks College Football Pick'em Contest. He wins a $50 Twin Peaks gift card. Don't forget to make your picks for Week 10 by 5 p.m. on Thursday. Play the 2022 Twin Peaks College Football Pick'em today at 1045ESPN.com.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You can always get the show on demand, 1045ESPN.com. You know, the chat makes me laugh sometimes. No class to adults who take the entire bowl of Halloween candy. I almost expect that out of the kids, right? I mean, if it's a little kid that doesn't know any better. But, yes, if you're an adult and you take the whole bowl, you got a real problem. Ask Hanny, why didn't Mike Denbrock put the whole playbook in at the beginning of the season? So this is kind of twofold. Number one, I think a lot of this stuff was in, not all of it, but I think a lot of it was in. But they didn't know what they did well at the beginning of the season. It would be an easy thing to just say, man, look, if they could have put the Ole Miss team out there in the Superdome against Florida State, but it doesn't work that way. The one big difference schematically, I would say offensively, that they've done is that they have incorporated the designed quarterback runs. Now, Jaden Daniels was running a lot in September, but he was running more out of necessity and because he wasn't trying to get the ball down the field as much, which is something that they worked with him with. Now putting in some of these design quarterback runs, I think, have been a lot more beneficial to him. So just like anything else, you wish you got it perfect to start with, but they had to figure out what they did well. They had to figure out the offensive line, and the quarterback had to gain some confidence in what they were doing. So actually, you know, I think Denbrock's done a pretty good job. And in September, I had my questions as well. No doubt about that. Ask Hanny, how will the playoffs work? Will games be played at home or at former bowl locations? And the answer is both. The first round games will be played at home. And that is actually one of the most exciting parts to me. Is that, I mean, we've seen the bowl games host the playoffs now for the last 8 years, and that's been cool. It's been cool to see teams play that ordinarily wouldn't have played in certain locations, or wouldn't have played each other. But to see it on a home field is going to be really cool to me. For instance, I saw one of the polls, one of the projections from a couple of weeks ago, that would have projected out the 12-team playoff. And it had stuff like Ole Miss at Michigan. It had stuff, this was before USC had lost. I think it had Penn State going to USC. I mean, it just had some really strange stuff. Just for instance, and it's a terrible analogy this week because I think LSU would play TCU, who they've played before. But what if LSU played Michigan in the playoff? What if Michigan had to come to Tiger Stadium? What if LSU had to go to the Big House? I think that would draw a little attention here, right? And it doesn't have to be Michigan. It could be Penn State. It could be what if USC had to come back to Tiger Stadium one year? I mean, just the possibility that stuff exists is what makes it so exciting for the playoff for me. And it does seem like they've got a little bit of urgency to get this done for 24, which to me, it would be great. If I could wish for anything right now, I'd be like, listen, work out whatever you got to work out, television contract-wise, grant of rights-wise, however you have to pacify the Rose Bowl, do whatever. But get this done for 2024. Get this done for 2024. We'll do one more lame duck season with this format, and then put Oklahoma and Texas in the SEC in 2024. Do we really need to wait? Do we really need to wait another year for that? You got teams coming into the Big 12 now, so the league's got their new television contract. Just go ahead and do this thing. I mean, this is what everybody wants. It's what everybody's decided. It may not be what everybody wants. I shouldn't say that way. But it's what everybody's decided that they're going to do. So can we just expedite this a little bit more? Ask Hanny, do you enjoy the podcast or the show more? They're different. the show moves a little bit faster. The show's a little bit more of a timely thing. Like, I don't do any game previews on the podcast because there's no shelf life to it. I get into topics that have a little bit more of a shelf life to them in the podcast. You can get a little bit more in depth. So there's both to it. Given my choice, I'd rather do live radio than podcast, but it's by a little bit. The podcast format has grown on me. Hanny, would you say that your pullover is more Tennessee orange or Cleveland Browns orange? Well, since Tennessee is the hot team right now, I guess. Although Cleveland did come through for me when I picked them the other night, so I guess it's actually probably closer to a Cleveland Browns orange than a Tennessee orange. Thanks to everybody for participating today. Hunt and Hill are coming up next. This has been Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
I know so many business owners that their number one complaint these days is about staffing. The amount of interviews, the amount of background checks, all of the payroll expenses that come along with it, mostly just keeps you from doing the things that can move your business forward, the things that need to be done. You have to take time out to take care of your staffing. Well, be fantastic if somebody could do that for you. Tiger Labor and Staffing will take care of all your screening, your training, your payroll, and all your employment expenses. They'll handle the interview process and the onboarding. So you're not going to be stuck with any more of those days where you schedule a lot of interviews and about half of them don't show. Doesn't matter whether you need somebody for a day, a week, or a month. You can control your labor expenses. You increase your flexibility. We got the holidays coming up. A lot of seasonal workers. If you need seasonal workers, let Tiger Labor and Staffing take care of that. You're going to lower your employment risk with a temp to hire option is only 60 days. That's the lowest in the industry. If you're looking for a job, Tiger Labor and Staffing welcomes skilled and unskilled labor. They'll match you with a job that fits and quick turnaround on pay. Get your work done without the worries. Tiger Labor and Staffing. Success begins with the eye of the tiger. Go to tigerlabor.com.